Hi, this is Chad Fosdick, and you are listening to the Fire Audio Experience. All right, so I'm sitting here with Michael Phillips from First State Bank. Thanks for doing this with me, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So we've actually got to know each other a little bit over the last, year and a half now almost.
Yep.
We survived our rookie year on Nebraska land days.
It was a struggle sometimes.
It was.
It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So,
good group of guys. So.
It's crazy just the amount of work that goes into, and we saw it not even just for the celebration last year, but then this year for the preparation, the run up to it.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of time, a lot of behind the scenes stuff that the general public doesn't see, and a big commitment from our families. Our wives, we're gone a lot with work nights and meetings and different things, and so it takes a big buy-in from not just us but also our families. So.
Yeah, and the camaraderie on that board is just it's unlike anything. I was in the military for a couple of years, and that's probably the closest thing that I could liken it to. But it's so unique to have just in a professional board setting like that, where it's such a tight knit group.
Yeah, exactly. I've served on a few boards, and there's nothing that compares in my eyes to the camaraderie you build with that group of guys, and you just become really close, and it's a cool deal. Yeah,
that's awesome. So, and that kind of leads me to the next thing. So, the Nebraska Land Days is just one of the boards that you have served on. What are some of the others? I know we're here specifically to talk about one, but were there others? I guess I never really asked you that.
Yeah, so I am currently president at Keep North Platte, Lincoln County Beautiful.
Okay. Nice.
I'm, we're here to talk about the Downtown Association, which I've been involved with for the past several years, and am past president of that. Just got off being president there. So, nice. And I serve in some other organizations, obviously, but don't sit on any other boards other than Nebraska Land Days. So
very cool. So, maybe that'll be a future interview with that. Keep North Platte, Lincoln County Beautiful. Yep. Very cool. Yep. Yeah, because I've seen some programs that have had that as associated, or that they maybe put on. So
yeah, they do. They do a lot of stuff around the town that's maybe not noticed. There's several cleanups and a large part of the recycling program. And getting that implemented in North Platte. So, those yellow bins that you've got in your backyard, if you're involved in that, was spearheaded by Keep North Platte, Lincoln County Beautiful. And they work really closely with the city. The city, helps with the recycling program immensely and honestly loses money on that deal. Really? But it's good for the environment. It's good to keep that stuff out of the landfill. So
wow, that's cool. And, it's funny you say that about, kind of goes unnoticed. And we've talked about this even with Nebraska Land Days, with a lot of the work that we do that, it's not during the concert or the rodeo or the parade or anything. It's what we did last week, whatever. And we've talked about this before because we haven't started yet just due to the weather, but we'll mow, right? We'll mow that entire area out there. And I know that it had been a topic of discussion that we want to be able to do it so well that people don't notice, and unfortunately, when you don't do it well is when people notice.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, if you've got a lot of weeds out there and stuff's overgrown, that's when people are going to say, "This place looks like a dump."
Yeah.
Very rarely is someone looking at it and saying, "Wow, they really kept this place up nice."
They cut that grass real well.
Yeah. So it's those little things that add up. To make sure you have a good presentation.
And I think a lot of boards, I guess, because this is the second board I'm sitting on. And a lot of the board work goes unnoticed, I think, regardless, right? I mean, so that's, but it's a great way to give back. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to try to talk to David Fudge about Nebraska Land Days. And I'm curious if he could get, like a total man hours or total volunteer hours on a calendar year that gets put in. I think that'd be an interesting stat to try to get.
It would be really neat to see that number. And I know with like Keep North Platte, Lincoln County Beautiful, we're a lot of grant funds, or we receive grant funding is how we operate, and we have to track all those volunteer hours. Oh, really? And Mona Anderson, our executive director for Keep North Platte, Lincoln County Beautiful, she compiles all that information and gives us those numbers, and it's staggering the amount of volunteer hours that go into all that different stuff. Wow. So, and I'm sure Nebraska Land Days probably trumps Keep North Platte, Lincoln County Beautiful, just with all the volunteers we have during the celebration and our board and everything.
Right.
So.
That's cool. So cool. Well, we'll take down the topic at hand. I reached out to you because obviously there's some big changes going on downtown here in North Platte.
Yeah.
And like anything, it didn't just get thought about a couple weeks ago and then started, right? So it took some time from what you've told me.
Yeah.
And so you're currently not the president of the Downtown Association, but you were for a period of time?
2 years before this. Yep. So I just got off being president in February, I believe. Okay. It was my last month as president. So real recently I was president, and so I've been on the board. It's 3-year terms. Okay. So I'm finishing my last year of my second term. So this is my 6th year being involved with the Downtown Association.
Wow.
But talking about the renovation progress that we've seen and going back to when it started, anybody that's involved with the downtown years ago would know that the awning removal process has been talked about for going on about 20 years now.
Holy cow.
I believe they first started, there were first rumblings in the 90s about, what are we going to do with these awnings? At that point, they had, had some issues with deterioration and different things. At that point, the city, from my understanding, the city went in and did some repairs, knowing that it wasn't going to last forever, obviously. Right. And but at that time, kind of put a Band-Aid on it. Huh. So there's been some studies done downtown. I think there's been 2 or 3 before this one that they just did about a year ago, and all those studies recommended taking the awnings down. There's a lot of benefits to not having the awnings there. It opens up the space so that people can see it. It seems more inviting when it's open. Yep. You can individualize your storefront much better if you don't have a big awning blocking it like what was there before. So you can create some eye appeal from people driving through the downtown or that are walking by and try to get that customer pulled into your store. And then obviously window displays. When you drove downtown when the awnings were there, you couldn't see what was in anybody's windows. Right. We had vendors that were, pulling, mannequins and stuff out of their store and putting them on the sidewalk just to try to get that, that attention to get people to come in the store. So, but obviously the awnings serve some good qualities too. When it's raining, like today, rain, you could be under the awnings and protected from that. Some of the store owners liked it because they didn't have to scoop their sidewalks. All the snow sat on the awnings and melted off. Some would blow in, but for the most part, scooping wasn't needed down there. And then it also created shade for the windows so that air conditioner units weren't running a lot because they're overworked from the sun shining in. So they had some benefits, but in those surveys, they're looking at how to make North Platte downtown most viable, most appealing to tourists, because that's where a lot of your traffic comes from downtown. Right. is people visiting the town, and the consensus through those surveys was that the awnings are hindering that.
Really?
So,
and I think they were probably, again, they served a purpose and they were very good, especially because how long had they been up?
They were put up. I believe it was either the late 60s, early 70s. Dang. And the reason they were put up was to compete with the malls, because that's when malls were becoming big, because you had all these stores you could go inside. You would walk from one store to another store.
That's kind of interesting.
And so that's the purpose of them, was to create that more of an indoor feeling. And
that's interesting. That's interesting. We, unfortunately, malls across the country are struggling now in 2018.
Yeah,
and
we've seen it here locally.
Yeah, it's tough stuff. I'm not envious of anyone trying to fill those spaces, because to find a retailer, and that could probably be in a whole nother topic. I know we were talking about that the other night, but it's just, whatever factors may have led to those major companies hitting those brick walls and having to go away is just, it's sad. But so, I went down to I went down to the espresso shop. That's one of my favorite places to go for lunch.
Yeah.
Go there maybe every other week at least. And we went down there. So we've gone down there for years. But then we went down there after the awnings were gone. And from the inside of it, it totally changed the feel. It was so much brighter in there. Mm-hmm. And then B, we always sit up in that little window thing. Sure. Right? I don't know if that's where they perform music or whatever, but we always end up sitting up there. And, you could just see for days. Like, it just, it felt like we weren't in the espresso shop is how different it felt to me. So, and I'm sure it's got to be that same way on the interior of all of those buildings.
Yeah. There's just so much more light that's able to be let in now with those awnings gone. And it's made a big difference. And obviously driving down there, it completely changed the look of that area with the awnings gone, and some of that's due to the trees being removed too. And right. The trees are kind of another topic.
Let's talk about trees, man.
Yeah, we'll talk about trees.
People were upset about those trees coming down. I don't know if there was some sentimental value to them, but I did see, and it's so hard. But there's we're trying not to give too much credence to the, there's typically a silent majority in a loud minority, right? Yeah. With something like this. And so I know we kind of poked fun at that before. Or not poked fun, but we highlighted the fact that there was some discussion like, what are you guys doing? Why would you even take these trees down? That was dumb and, whatever. So maybe you can give us some color on that.
The trees, obviously the trees are great. They're nice to look at.
You hate trees. Mike was like, the only way I will approve this is if these trees go.
No. I got to be careful. I'm on Keep North Platte Lane County Beautiful Board,
I know,
so we plant a lot of trees there too. So I'm not anti-tree.
So you love trees, actually. Right?
Yeah, I like trees. Yeah. The trees downtown though had grown to a size that was too big for the space that they were in.
Sure.
There's a lot of issues with their roots. Playing havoc with the sidewalk or some of that brick that was laid down there. So there's those issues. And we talk about the awnings creating a visual blockage for the downtown. Those trees did the same thing.
Right.
And another component with the trees is even if the city and us and everybody wanted to keep those trees, there wasn't a reasonable way to remove the awnings while keeping the trees without extremely increasing the cost of that removal. The way they removed those awnings, they actually took them out in full sections, or not full, in large sections, would set them on a truck, would haul them off, and then they would tear them apart off site.
Okay.
And in order to lift those awnings up and swing them onto the truck, those trees couldn't be there. Because
the other alternative then would have been to take them off the building and then tear them down right there in the downtown area. Yeah. Obviously, you'd have blocked everything. Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, there was some concern about asbestos in the awnings where if they were to do that on site, then that creates another huge problem.
Right.
Where, they don't have to contend so much with that if they can get it in a contained area.
Right.
So...
That's interesting. And so...
And there are plans that... we're not sure what the final plan is yet. We're still in works with the city trying to decide what we're going to do. I would be very surprised if there aren't some sort of greenery put down there, whether it's trees or bushes or... those types of greenery add to the visual appeal and so we're going to do something.
Right. Well, and if you think about even cities that are in similar in size, maybe Hastings, Grand Island, Kearney comes to mind. This makes it. Hastings has done a great job. I'm not sure how they've gone about with their downtown. They've maybe haven't been there for a while, but they've done a tremendous job with. There's local restaurants, there's local shopping, and it looks really inviting. And they have a one-way system down there. It's actually a little bit more confusing than our one-way system.
Really?
Yeah. So, and then Kearney, I think they've for a period of time had a pretty decent downtown area as well. So,
and if you as you mentioned these other towns, you go and visit other downtowns, it's become an experience.
Right.
It's not necessarily the place you go to go load up on school clothes or,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff that maybe it used to be when you had more retailers. It's become more about restaurants,
Some nightlife.
yeah, and that kind of stuff. And so you have to adapt with the times, and I think that this will make it easier for North Platte to do that. And, that's when you have a good downtown nightlife or some attraction from the tourists, that may bring more economic dollars to North Platte if people are going down there and spending money. Maybe the next time they go down and experience downtown and they really like it, well, maybe the next time they're traveling through, they say, well, let's stay in North Platte and we'll go downtown again.
Right.
And so you re-up on that money that they're bringing in. Whereas if you don't have that experience, well, why don't we go to Kearney and stay there,
right,
and we'll go down to their downtown.
Sure.
So there's, and it's so hard to quantify that.
Sure. Yep. Yep.
So.
Yeah, and so since, this conversation of doing something with the awnings has gone on for about 2 decades now, and it's finally in process. Well, they're done, I guess, but the project is not complete.
Correct.
So, and I think that you had mentioned that some of it is dependent on the actual building owners themselves downtown.
Yep.
But then I guess they're probably, and maybe this would be a city conversation, but there would be a city component as well. But is there anything more that the Downtown Association has in store for this particular project, or is it you're kind of?
Well, we've helped Megan McGowan at the chamber. Megan's been very instrumental in this, and a large part of why this all happens. And she helps consult our board. She comes to our board meetings. She's not a voting member, but we rely on her for some input from the chamber and stuff. And
Very cool.
And so we've worked with her on this on the facade grant program that they have.
Right.
And so that program allows businesses some grant funds to improve their facade.
Okay.
And what that allows is it's incentive for a business owner to say, well, if I'm going to do something at the front of my building, now is the time, because there's some this
assistance.
Free money. Now it's a matching grant, so you have to spend some money.
Sure.
So, and obviously that all rolls around into the whole economy in North Platte, because they're hiring, Conan Signs has been very instrumental in it. So, he's gained a lot of business, and, there's other businesses
Painting
that are,
just refacing some stuff.
Yep. So there's a lot of dollars being pumped into this, or into the North Platte,
right,
through just this
wow
facade improvement that
cool.
we're doing. And, and the downtown will continue to be helpful where we can. The Downtown Association is made up strictly of volunteers. We don't have an executive director or someone that's hired full time. And we spend a lot of our own time trying to improve downtown. But at the end of the day, we all have our jobs and our families and stuff too that make it difficult to spearhead big projects.
Sure.
If we do something too big, then you wear out your board members, and it's just not good for anybody when that stuff starts happening. So, we try to assist where we can, whether it's, helping the city communicate to our downtown members so that they know, what we would like to see, or what the merchants down there would like to see. And then, obviously with the chamber, we're kind of, I would say, we're kind of a liaison for the downtown in a whole, to try to make sure that we're meeting the merchants' wants and that
a liaison to the chamber and the city, basically.
Yeah, and other entities as needed.
Right.
So
I'm sure to keep North Platte, Lincoln, Beautiful.
We work with them. Yep. So.
Very cool. So, I guess in your opinion, what were maybe some of the, before that stamp of approval hit to say let's do it, what were maybe some of the roadblocks that you had seen that had just been? So
there. Obviously, a big change like this, you're going to have people that are in that area that don't want to do it. Right. And so, it was the first roadblock was educating people onto why this is going to benefit downtown in the long run.
Huh.
And And so then that's where our last survey kind of came into place. And it's not that we didn't tell him we want to take the awnings down, right? I mean, we totally let him do his job and make suggestions.
Right.
But we were pretty sure, based on the other surveys that we had, that he was probably going to have the same
result.
The same result, that we need to get rid of the awnings. And so then through him, and he met with individual business owners downtown and talked to them. And like I said, he was unbiased. He wasn't trying to push the awning agenda on them or anything like that.
Right.
But, just through some sketches that he had done, it was pretty eye-opening to people that, well, this is what my building could look like without awnings.
Right.
With not a huge dollar amount invested into it.
Sure.
Because that was his goal, was to have substantial change at a minimal dollar investment.
Really?
So, and so once people kind of realize that, well, that does make it look a lot nicer.
Yeah.
Then those benefits started to outweigh I have to scoop my sidewalk. What if it's raining? Some of those things that were the benefits of having the awning. So, and then the next roadblock was to get the city bought into doing something now and getting city council to vote in favor of it, right? And the city I think that the city actually did want them down too, because they were going to cost a lot of money for the city to fix up, and they were city property, so it was their responsibility.
Okay.
But the city didn't want to come in and say, we're taking these down, right? They wanted the merchants to buy in on it before they were going to make that decision.
Sure.
But then, then it's going to the city council members and trying to have conversations with them, saying, this is why we want to do it. These are the benefits of it,
right? And
try to fight that opposition. You said the minority can be loud. And so we wanted to combat any of that going on, because there was some.
Sure.
And we knew of it. We had people tell us that, and that we're against it. And so then getting the city bought in to the city council bought in to vote on it. And ultimately it came to vote, and it passed. And then the roadblock was, well, how is it going to work? What's the timeline? What's the cost,
right?
The final cost. And so they let out for bids, and the bid actually came in lower than what we were expecting. Wow. So that was good.
Nice.
Save some money there. So, I mean, there's been roadblocks. There's going to be roadblocks. It's just, you gotta take them as they come.
Right.
So,
and we've only been open for about 4.5 years now, but in that time, there's been I think quite a bit of improvement downtown, just with, I know there's still some empty spaces, and I get that, but the Downtown Association, just my opinion, can't, it's not your job to go get businesses to come down there. I think it's maybe more of kind of what you guys have done, which is make it more like appealing for someone to say, hey, there's a space there. Let me see. And so it's about, I think, helping the current merchants, like you said, and making it appealing for shoppers to actually want to come and hang out down there for a while. And so, I think the addition of, what restaurants have just opened? So you got Lulu's down there, and
Lulu's, Mallory's, R&R, Judy's Grab a Bite. There's been several restaurants that have opened recently.
But that's it, I think, right now.
I think so. I mean, you have the ones that have been there a while too. You've got La Hacienda.
Oh, because the downtown stretches up into the old Alco building, and where. So
actually, in our bylaws, the downtown covers a pretty large area. It runs from B Street to Front Street, and Poplar to Willow.
Holy cow!
That is big. Yeah, it's a big area.
Yeah.
And we wanted to make sure that we encompassed the businesses that are close to downtown. Now, obviously, there's some residential areas in there and different stuff, so it's kind of broken up some. But yeah, I mean, we take in a big area. So if you look at what our bylaws state as restaurants, you've got Three Margaritas.
Okay.
The Switchyard, that's another new one.
That's right.
Helped out at downtown a lot. They put a lot of money in that building, and that would have been a really big eyesore on a very busy street had
Right.
it continued to sit. So.
Yeah, no, that was great. And then you mentioned R&R, and so I think that I'm gonna try to get with him, talk to him about, because we went and ate there the other day.
Yeah,
it was outstanding.
It was really good.
Yeah, it was tough to finish the afternoon because I wanted to get a nap. Man, that was tough. So is there anything else? I know that this is such a huge project for the Downtown Association. Are there any maybe not major projects, and what are some things that are maybe happening right now that most people don't know about?
So the next step of this renovation is going, well, not the very next step, but one of the following steps after that new canopies are put up and the facade is done and that sort of thing is, and we're starting the process now in working with the city, but the plan is to do a new streetscape from 4th Street to 6th Street, right down that corridor.
Okay.
So that'll be, tearing out the streets, and they're planning on putting some new infrastructure down.
Now, when you say streets, are you talking about the bricks?
The bricks, yeah.
The bricks are going to come up?
Yeah. So,
wow.
And like I said, there's no plans finalized yet. I don't want to speak out of turn or anything, but
it's a possibility.
Yeah, it's from what I've heard, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
Okay.
Because there's infrastructure that needs replaced.
Right.
If you go on 5th Street from Dewey to Bailey, right in front of like Northwestern Energy.
Okay.
They redid that street, 7-8 years ago.
Okay.
And they left the bricks in there and they put concrete on the parking. So it's probably going to be something similar to that, where they'll more than likely still include bricks in it somehow.
Sure.
But it may be modified and definitely updated.
Right.
And then they'll hopefully widen the street a little bit. That's a complaint we get, is when people drive down there, if you get a long box pickup against a long box pickup parked on the other side, there's not much space to drive through there. And the crazy thing, if you go stand on the corner of 4th and Dewey, and you look back towards like Wells Fargo and the courthouse,
okay,
if you go from where the actual sidewalk starts, there's some like cobblestone brick stuff
right
in between the street and the sidewalk. If you go from where the sidewalk starts, that sidewalk downtown under where the awnings used to be matches with the sidewalk to Wells Fargo and to the courthouse.
Crazy, man.
So that street could be big enough for 2 lanes and parking through this thing. And like I said, I don't know if they'll make it 2 lanes or if they'll keep it 1 and just make it wider for parking and so forth.
Wow.
But it was eye-opening to me. When I was told that, I was like, there's no way. No way that street is as wide as the one coming into it. And I went and looked, and sure enough.
I'll go get some pictures of it and try to include it in the video here, and we'll get that up with it, because you had told me that, and so I went down and looked too, and because it just doesn't feel that way with the use of space, I think. So, well, that's cool, man. Anything else us laypersons should know that aren't all involved with the happenings down there?
I guess there's a lot of things going on. There's going to be a lot of changes, and I guess what I would encourage people to do is when there are changes, sometimes it's not a bad deal to embrace change.
Yeah.
We caught a lot of Facebook feedback on removing the trees and the awnings and stuff, and I know right after that was done, there's people taking pictures of the stores that kind of tore up from the awnings being removed, and why'd they do this? Look how bad it looks now. And that's just part way through the process. So there's an end game in sight, and it's going to look a lot different. And in 5 years, I'm confident that people are going to look back and say that was the smartest thing that this area could have done. Was,
that's cool.
Revitalize this downtown.
Well, and I think that change is hard. For whatever reason, we believe there should be some resistance, and you don't want to change. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But the cool thing is we all have a different version of what broke means. Like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so, but one thing I've gone and sat in on a couple meetings of the Downtown Association. And I do personally know maybe a handful that are on that board and that are involved there. And, I can just say from my, outsider's perspective, is it is with it being a volunteer organization. I mean, that out of the gate, and people are committed to actually doing it, should tell you that they have the majority's best interest in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start with that as your starting point, and I think that you can't unfortunately please everybody, but I think you're right. I'll look forward to, what do you say, 5 years from now. So with that, 2023, something like that. So in 2023, we'll have a revamp. Maybe we'll have flying cars or something by that time. But at least I really do. And I was thinking about this on my way here this morning. Was that, I mean, it does automatically look better. Yeah, there's going to be some gaps in the facades, but I mean, like you said, this is step 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever step we're on here of a 20-step process probably. So I think it's going to be great.
It's just going to take some time, but it'll be worth it.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah,
it's awesome, dude. I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you inviting me.
Heck yeah. Cool. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Chad.